Welcome back, guys. Moving on with this corner cabinet. Last week we got our doors milled out and ready to start gluing up. Now I'm going to say it again. Make sure you sand in here first before you put this together. Sand all those little beads and everything, because getting in there after the fact is very difficult. Be careful when you're sanding. Always mark your joint points so that you don't sand them too much to affect your fit. Now, this can be a little tricky gluing this door up. So I'm going to show you how I do it. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you is I had this middle pane right here. I was 9 7/8, and that was my opening from the edge of here to the edge of here. I was not quite dead in the center of this shelf, and I wanted to be. So what I did was I cheated. I simply made that, I wasn't about a 16th off. I simply made that middle space just a little bit bigger by a 16th. Not going to affect anything when we go to put our glass in. 16th of an inch, and well, you can't, there's no human way you can look and see it, simply put. Okay, gluing this up. Now the reason I told you about that is that's why you see the B's and the C's. This is the bottom panes, this is the center pane. Now that door's glued. I'm going to show you what I did. Just as you see it laying, I went through and I marked every joint. I marked the bottom, I marked the top, and each one of the cross mullions, and I glued it. Now, after I glued it, then what I did was, and we're going to be doing this again, after I glued it, pulled it up tight with the clamps, then here's what I do. I already had this door in. I simply put this right back in the case. Then, at each and every junction, here, I made a wedge, a thin little wedge, and I drive it in place. Here, here, here. You see I got the one in the top. I make sure this door is sitting perfectly flat to the case. Now you can see a little remnant down here underneath here of some masking tape. When I glue it now, what we're going to do is I put the masking tape on the bottom and on the top, because it's not real cool to glue these doors in there, and you can do that if you don't use that masking tape. The other thing I want to point out is, you see this ledge up here? This is a piece put in behind the face frame in the front to give me a doorstop. It comes down about 1/4 of an inch, and it's about 3/4 of an inch thick. With our shelf elevated and this down, that gives us our doorstops. All right. So what I did was I glued this, as you're going to see. I do it in 2 steps. So this is what I wound up with, because I don't want to be messing with all of this glue. So here's what I got. So the only thing I had to do is I had to pull this tight and these two. That's all I had to deal with. So now I'm set. All I got to do is glue my other pieces. Now again, make sure you've got your marks so you know where everything is going to be going. And I do. I don't think I marked this one right here. Got everything else marked. Yeah, no, I ain't got a pencil. That's all right. I can do it with this. Now, when you're gluing these doors, one of the big things is you don't want glue. I got a little bit in this corner. And if I let the glue dry, and then come back and just take a little chisel, sharp chisel, and peel it off. And if you have an issue with that, I think I've told you before, take a hairdryer and warm that glue a little bit, and it'll get soft, and you can pop it right out of there. Taking a wet rag and wiping this isn't necessarily the best idea. The best idea is actually to catch it before it's fully cured, but still kind of gooey. It'll kind of come off in a lump. And the reason I say wiping it off with a wet rag isn't a good idea is it can just smear it right in that corner. Then you've got, this way the glue is just pretty much laying on the surface. So just a little sharp chisel and you can take it out. The object of the game is not get any in there, but that doesn't always work out real well, as we all know. And this is a tough area. So, how do we glue it to keep as little glue as possible from getting in there? Q-tip, ear swab, whatever you want to call it. If you'll look, this little cove that's right here, that's where we don't want to get too much glue, because then it's where it comes out around these edges. If you take a Q-tip and just wet it. That's all you need. In the bottom of it, you can be a little less particular. And I know I got a glue brush, but I probably laid something on top of it. I did. All right. This, I'm going to lay it to it. Because this little bottom of this mortise, this tenon, and this top of this tenon, those are my dominant hold points. When I'm doing the big one, that's not going to give me as much of an issue. But I still don't want to get a ton of glue right up here in this corner, because if I do, then it's going to come out everywhere. In here is not going to matter. And the reason I say it ain't going to matter is because it's going to be easy to get to clean up after the fact. Now, this is Tight Bond 3 I'm using, so I got to move pretty quick. If I was trying to do this whole door one time and it was pretty warm, I might have an inclination to go to a slower setting glue. If, on the other hand, I was doing this and it was just going to be natural wood, just to be safe, I might even go to a white glue. And I'm going to tell you, good old Elmer's works as good as it ever did. And it dries clear. So work pretty swiftly. Don't get glue on here, then go decide to eat lunch or watch a movie. If you want to go watch me on the computer, that's okay, but don't do any of them other things. Now I've got me a line here showing how far up I can go. Now, right here where I got that little mullion coming in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get down inside of here. Plenty. Right there, I'm just going to give me a little, I'm just going to paint it a little bit. Not going to take a lot because we're going to reinforce this. You'll see how I do that. Y'all already know I like peg, mortise, and tenons. A lot. I have never ever seen one fail. Never. And you know, I'll tell you something else too. These joints work good. And one of the dominant reasons is that we have the new modern day adhesive. They're good. Now, while I'm gluing this, if you'll look real close right here, you're going to see a little bit, I'm not dead flush with that bottom. The reason is, remember, I'm a little bit short on that center, but I know that I'm going to be trimming, so I know how to, so all I did was compensate and I'll be fine. In other words, when I trim this to fit, I'll be flushing that bottom up. I actually got a little bit more space on the top than what I've got here. I knew that when I did it, but I also knew that it would be okay. Ooh, gluing's quiet, ain't it? While I'm standing here and you guys are watching me smear this stuff, I'm going to tell you a joke. It's clean. This lady, 71-year-old lady, goes to the doctor. And, you know, you've been in there, you know, they got 4 or 5 doctors and whatever. And the old senior doctor, this little 71-year-old lady, she's seeing one of the younger doctors. So she goes in to see the doctor. And after just 3 or 4 minutes, she comes flying. I mean, she just goes running down the hall. She's squalling and squealing and whatever. And the senior doctor is trying to figure out what's going on. So he goes back in the examination room, and there's the young doctor. He's sitting in there, and he's writing on his pad, writing everything down. And the doctor says, "What in the world is wrong with you?" He said, "Why did you tell Miss So-and-so at 71 years old she's pregnant?" Said, "This woman's got 5 kids and got 15 grandkids." Young doctor never quit writing, just sitting there, just calm as could be, never looked up. Said, "Does she still have the hiccups?" That wasn't funny? Okay. No more jokes in. Huh. All right. Yeah, I know. I'm going to get emails. Neil, do the woodwork. Skip the jokes. Well, y'all know Jay Leno's retiring. Hey, somebody got to. All right. Now, I don't know if you have some of these, but a nice set of parallel clamps, these are a good deal to have, I'm going to tell you up front. I got this bottom down too far. Should have been paying attention, not telling jokes, huh? What I'm making sure is that where I'm down on this bottom and here that I'm the same. Okay. Now I got to pull everything good and tight. All right. Now this top and bottom can move a little bit this way because it's got a pivot point. Even though it's glued in place, it can move a little bit. So make sure you're right. Now the other thing is make sure you're on a good flat surface. In this case, my bench. Because what can happen on a cope and stick joint in this area, that joint can do this a little bit because you don't have that long of a tenon. Everything looks good. See how nice these help keep everything nice and square and straight, and you can see it instead of trying to fumble and measure with all of that. Now, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to go ahead and let this dry. Now, one of the things I'm noticing, I got a little bit of a gap here in the back. So that mean I might be pulling it. So I'm just going to put a little back pressure on it. Now comes my secret. We got a short tenon. I'm on the back. Secret weapon. I think the drill bit's 3 30-seconds for a round toothpick. Somewhere in there. The exact size is actually little. Pack them up. Got it? All right. I'll let this set a little bit. What's a little bit? Just enough to make sure the glue's pretty much squeezed out everywhere and that everything's in good shape. Okay, like I said, only thing I've done is I've let this just tack up. Now this is a good point to get the glue. And the reason I just want it to tack up is I want to get it back in this case. Now what are we doing? We're fitting the door to the case. I understand square and I understand everything's supposed to be. But we've already talked about that supposed to be and is thing. It's not always the way it works. This works really neat. Just don't let it get glued in the case. What did I do with my other one? Here. All right. Now, the other thing I want to do is not that. Is I want to make sure that there's no glue back here on this back edge, which there is. Because if I get glue back there, I can glue it to my doorstop. And I don't want that. All right, right in the case it goes. Be careful and get up over your shelf a little bit, or you can drive your wedge into your shelf. All right, all my joints are tight. This thing is fitted exactly to this case. And all I got to do now, let the glue dry. Now I'm going to give you a hint. If you have the time to let those doors dry in that case for a couple days is a smart thing. As glue dries, it can pull. It can and you've seen it. You know, glue can pull things a little bit. And if you set this in here, two things are happening. Number one is these doors are acclimating to their environment. The second thing they're doing is that glue is curing solid where it needs to be, so we don't have any issues. So, pretty good thing to do. All right, those are our upper doors. Now we got to do the raised panel ones. But we got an issue. And not uncommonly so. These raised panels, remember, I resawed these out of some pretty wide, well, the 13 some odd inches. And I did that, I don't know, 2-3 days ago. Should have done it earlier. And when you open, we've talked about this. When you open wood up like that, the inside, I don't care how long they've sat around, they're gonna move. And so they've sat around in here now and they've acclimated themselves, but this one isn't bad because I've already hand planed it a little bit. But before I did that, this is what I had. I have two things. One, it cupped, almost guaranteed. But I also was able to resaw it thick enough to be able to process it. Let's see what this one looks like. Here we go, see it? How do we fix that? We come back, I'm going to show you.